Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. On today's show, Bitcoin bottom confirmed. Data shows 87.5% chance the worst is over. I've been calling for this. Also, crypto regulation shifts as Bitcoin eyes $105,000 amid liquidity boost. Bitcoin outlook strengthens as USDT market cap expands and indicators enter oversold zone. And Trump admin wants to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, says the White House. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Today is March 13th, 2025, and Bitcoin's going about sideways today, down a couple percent. It was up earlier today and down kind of starting midday, and currently a little bit down a couple percent. Let's get into our market watch and Bitcoin technical analysis. Without further ado, we've got Bitcoin down exactly 2.11% at 82,216. Ethereum down 0.25%, 1893. Solana down 0.5%, $125. XRP up 2.5%, $2.29. Doge down 1.6% at 16 cents. Let's get into the crypto bubbles. We see about a 50-50 mix. Trump coin up 10%. PLSX down 10%. Sonic up 8%. SCI up 4%. SUI down 4%. Mana up 3.5%. It's about a 50-50 mix here. XLM about 5% up. Toncoin 4%. Near Protocol 3.5%. Let's move out to the weekly view, and in the weekly view we see that most things are in the red, with the exception of IP up 11% and TIA up 15%, but everything else approximately 5% to even 25% down. Hex down 25%, Jasmy 20% down, Ondo 19% on the negative. And zooming out to the monthly, similar, we've got TIA up 15%, IP up 124%, Maker up 19%, but everything else in the red. Pepe down 30%, Bonk down 38%, PLSX down 45%, Ethereum down 27%, Jasmy down 40%, Mana down 15%, Bitcoin down 14.4%. Let's move into the full market cap for Bitcoin, which currently holds $1.6 trillion of the market cap. Ethereum 228 billion, XRP 133 billion, Solana 64 billion, Doge 25 billion, Cardano just under 25 billion, almost ready to flip Doge. Tron at 21.4 billion, and Pi $11.8 billion as it stands. The total crypto market cap right now is $2.64 trillion, with a Bitcoin holding 61.7% of that, Ethereum 8.6%, XRP up to 5.04%, BNB also up to 3.14%, and the other coins combined 8.43%. Currently, our crypto fear and greed index tells us we are at a 27 in fear. Yesterday was a 45 in neutral, and last week a 34 in fear. And we're not that far removed from the extreme fear, which really was about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. We were at a 10 at one point. There are 1,126 days until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028, and there's 162,290 blocks left to mine until that date. Currently, there there are 1,163,407 blocks to mine, Bitcoins left to mine, pardon me, until the final Bitcoin is mined in the year 2140. The total top assets by market cap, we've got gold over 20 trillion. $20.151 trillion. Everybody's moving their money out of the stock market. They're shitting their pants, boys. Apple, 3.1 trillion. Nvidia, 2.8 trillion. Microsoft, 2.8 trillion. Amazon, 2 trillion. Google, 1.995 trillion. Silver, 1.945 trillion. Saudi Aramco, 1.675 trillion. There's the biddy at 1.619 trill. And Facebook at number 10, 1.496 trillion. And you can currently get 1,217 Satoshis for one US fiat dollar. Speaking of the fiat currency, the US debt clock tells us the debt keeps on a ticking right now, sitting at 36,593,000,000,046 mil. Make that 47 million. See that? 5 seconds pass and $1 million goes. Seriously. There's another 500,000 right there. From the time I said 47, $500,000 passed. And let's just wait for the full million, and $1 million additional added from the time I mentioned the price to now. So imagine how fast this debt is going up, guys. And they have to keep servicing the debt. We talked about this yesterday. So because of that, the interest rates are going to have to come way down, because they are going to have to pay a lot of this debt back. And if the rates don't come down, they're in big trouble paying this thing off. The debt per citizen right now is at $107,050, and debt per U.S. taxpayer $323,048. So, who out there is ready to drop $323,048? I know who. Nobody. So they definitely need to service this debt and do something, because they cannot blow this, or there's going to be, riots in the streets, guys. Let's face it here. Huge debt. Coming on to 37 trillion. I mean, it's 36.6 almost. By tomorrow, it's going to be 36.6 trillion. And it just feels like a week ago when it spun from the 35 trillion to 36 trillion, and then another $500 billion just in a few weeks. It's just insanity. What's not insane is the Bitcoin. We had a big dump, talking about tariffs, and the stock market continues to go down. Today was another down day for S&P, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ. I'm pretty sure everything was down close to 2% again. So things keep tanking. But Bitcoin holding steady, right? We were about a week and a half ago talking about the bottom, and we were talking about the tariffs, and we were talking about the head and shoulder pattern that completed its journey. And I can open that up right now as a refresher. And let's just put this into the right context so we can really see that head and shoulder pattern. And up we go. You can modify these charts however you want. This is tradingview.com. You can download the app and you can mess with it however you want, with not just Bitcoin. You can put whatever coin you want in here, whatever stock you want in here, and you can have fun to your heart's content. So here's the head and shoulder pattern, and we talked about the bottom reaching the original bottom over here, and we see the dotted line goes right across to that starting point on the left and then to the ending point, and we are up quite a bit. So we were talking about the bottom when it was hitting, closing, finishing off the head and shoulder pattern, which it seems it did, and now we are hopefully in an uptrend. in the good old biddy. And it seems the experts are saying there is an 87% chance the worst is over. In the ongoing debate over Bitcoin market trajectory, two prominent crypto analysts have shared contrasting viewpoints on X, underscoring the community's divided sentiment. While one maintains that a drastic downturn remains possible, the other posits that the worst of the market downturn has already passed, citing a notable 87.5% probability that it's passed. Bitcoin bears are in trouble. No kidding. Crypto analyst Dr. Profit posted on X and laid out two potential paths for Bitcoin. There are two scenarios: a bottom to be 68 to 74,000 region in a normal market, full crash toward 50,000 in a black swan event. He did not provide a specific probability for either outcome, but emphasized that a black swan event, a term used to describe a rare, unexpected event that can drastically impact markets, cannot be ruled out. While noting that such an extraordinary downturn was previously unlikely, he now concedes that recent shifts in the macro landscape may leave room for it. Take your bets. I would say that a black swan event was very unlikely in the last few months, but ask me now, I would not rule it out. Rather welcome it. Welcome it, eh? In direct contrast, crypto analyst Astronomer responded with a more bullish outlook, asserting that the bottom is already behind us. He referenced a track record of Bitcoin price reversals around the Federal Open Market Committee meetings, claiming it works 14 out of 16 times, roughly 87% of the time. No guarantees, but an 87% chance. Granted, the charts below and all the confluences I already presented. So far, so good. His approach relies on mapping out price movements in proximity to FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee dates, noting that markets often price in interest rate decisions and related news before official announcements. Astronomer's method contends that Bitcoin typically finds local bottoms in a window spanning from up to 5 2D bars before the FOMC date to the day of the meeting itself. All it requires is a flip on a daily or two daily, in my case, to keep the chart clean. Time frame. Plot out all the dates FOMC meetings appeared and see what price did. This shows that indeed price trends to reverse when time is nearing into the FOMC. The caveat is that the price reverses before or at the very latest right at the FOMC date, the analyst writes. He points out that the next FOMC meeting is scheduled for March 19th, meaning the bottom, if the historical pattern holds, should appear no later than that date. Works almost every time, 14 out of 16, in fact, 87% of the time. The time difference, the bottom happens versus the FOMC day, is usually 0 to 5 2-day bars before the exact date. Given the next FOMC is on the 19th of March, this means that the low is in the latest that day and the earliest on March 5th. To bolster his argument, Astronomer points that he perceives as peaking fear in the market. He views heightened pessimism and cautionary posts about nowhere from established traders as typical signals that rebound could be imminent. Sentiment-wise, fear is peaking to hilarious levels. Even reputable traders are protecting their reputation. Don't blame anyone's method, but I take it at great sign of a bottom. And here's the chart he's referencing. Interesting. So he's basing it on the dates of the Fed meeting, the interest rate meeting. So we'll see what happens on the 19th. So hopefully the bottom is in, and we shall see over the next few hours and next few days. the regulation behind Bitcoin is definitely shifting, and Bitcoin eyes 105,000 amid regulation shifts and liquidity boosts. Bitcoin price faces pressure, but macroeconomic trends and regulatory shifts could drive further growth, with Bitcoin posed to reach six digits once again. Wasn't that long ago. Bitcoin price has risen 8% from its March 11th low of 76.7, driven in part by large investors aggressively buying the dip with leverage. Margin longs on Bitfinex surged to their highest level since November 2024, adding 13,787 Bitcoin over 17 days, currently standing at 5.7 billion. This bullish leverage position signals confidence in Bitcoin's upside potential despite recent price weakness. Wow, so these guys are leveraged positions. They're selling their shirts to buy the biddy from this point. Crazy. Some analysts argue that Bitcoin's price is closely linked to the global monetary base, meaning it tends to rise as central banks inject liquidity. With recession risks mounting, the likelihood of expansionary monetary policies increasing the money supply growth. If this correlation holds, Bitfinex whales could be well positioned to capitalize on a rally above 105,000 in the next 2 months. For instance, ex-user Pack Chicken claims to have identified an 82% correlation between the global money supply and Bitcoin's price. When the central banks drain liquidity by raising interest rates or reducing bond holdings, traders become more risk adverse, leading to weaker demand for Bitcoin. Conversely, periods of monetary easing tend to fuel greater investor interest in the asset, increasing its price potential. Bitfinex whales go long on BTC as M2 bottoms. In early September 2024, Bitfinex margin traders added 7,840 Bitcoin in long positions, coinciding with a period of bearish momentum as Bitcoin struggled to reclaim the 50,000 level for over 3 months. Despite the downturn, Bitfinex whales held their position and Bitcoin's price surged past 75,000 less than 2 months later. Notably, the global M2 money supply bottomed out around the same time these traders increased their Bitcoin exposure, further reinforcing the correlation. It may be impossible to establish a direct cause and effect relationship between the money supply and investors' willingness to accumulate Bitcoin, especially given the influence of major events during these periods. For example, Donald Trump's election as U.S. President November 2024 significantly fueled Bitcoin's rally due to the new administration's pro-crypto stance, regardless of the global M2 trends and liquidity conditions. Similarly, Michael Saylor's latest plan to raise up to $25 billion in fresh capital for Strategy to acquire more Bitcoin could shift market dynamics, even accounting for the $4.1 billion in net outflows from Bitcoin spot exchange traded funds since February 24th. Strategy remains the largest corporate Bitcoin holder with 499,096 BTC acquired at a total cost of $33.1 billion, reinforcing its long-term bullish strategy. Clearer crypto regulation, Strategy capital increase. In essence, the expansion of the global money supply may have influenced the increase in Bitfinex's margin longs, but Bitcoin's push toward 105,000 could be primarily driven by the industry-specific news and events. A Wall Street Journal report on March 13th revealed that representatives of Donald Trump have held discussions about potentially acquiring a stake in Binance. First time I'm hearing of that. Related, U.S. Bitcoin ETFs break outflow streak with 13.3 million inflows. So far, the market impact of a more crypto-friendly U.S. government has yet to yield concrete benefits. For example, the Office of the Comptroller of Currency has not yet clarified whether banks can custody digital assets and manage stablecoins without prior approval. Similarly, acting as chairman SEC Mark Ueda announced plans to remove crypto-specific positions from a proposed rule that would expand exchange definitions. The U.S. Securities Exchange Commission is currently reviewing a request from spot Bitcoin ETF issuers to permit in-kind creations and redemptions, allowing shares to be exchanged directly for Bitcoin instead of using the traditional cash-based method. Meanwhile, global macroeconomic conditions have deteriorated, putting pressure on Bitcoin's price. However, these same factors gradually push governments toward economic stimulus measures and expand the M2 money supply. If this trend continues, it should ultimately create conditions for Bitcoin's price to meet Pack Chicken's $105,000 prediction by May and possibly go even higher. I feel like the go even higher. And remember, folks, when there's a turnaround, it's not like Bitcoin's going to go to the moon tomorrow. It's going to happen over time, over months. This is what's happened in the past, and this is what will also happen in the future. And let's all hope. I give it about the same, about an 80% of the price going up rather than down. If we look at the historical charts, I mean, there's no reason why it wouldn't follow this post-halving type trend. So let's hope this comes to fruition for all the Bitcoin holders and friends out there. The Bitcoin outlook strengthens as the USDT market cap expands and indicators enter oversold zone. The US Tether market cap increased $5.75 billion in the past 60 days, a moving historically associated with price increases for Bitcoin. The outlook for Bitcoin is showing signs of improvement as stablecoin liquidity increases and the key market indicator signals a potential reversal of the recent dip correction. Crypto Quant highlighted a significant expansion in the market capitalization of Tether, which usually leads to a rising Bitcoin price. Tether's market capitalization has grown by $5.75 billion over the past 60 days, exceeding its 60-day simple moving average of $3.46 billion. Historically, this movement indicates fresh capital entering the crypto market, which could support price momentum. Additionally, on-chain data points out that overall stablecoin market cap increased even further in the past 60 days, leaping from $203 billion to $226 billion as of March 13th. This is equivalent to an 11% increase. However, the liquidity injection is not triggering any short-term rebounds. The crypto market cap has fallen 3.2% over the past 24 hours, reaching $2.72 trillion. Meanwhile, BTC has fallen by 3.5% in the same period, trading at 80,000. Now it's about 81,500. But we are in oversold territory. At the same time, the on-chain data suggests that Bitcoin has reached an oversold zone following a period of strong correction. Crypto Quant Korean community manager Crypto Dan pointed out that the proportion of Bitcoin holding for less than 1 month surged in March and December by 2024, reaching 23% and 24.5% respectively. The pattern preceded a correction, bringing the market value to a realized value of 1.8, close to the 2024 correction low of a 1.71. If Bitcoin falls to the $70,000 range, the MVRV ratio would surpass levels seen during the past correction lows. However, market sentiment has weakened significantly, with altcoins surrendering most of their gains made over the past year. This suggests that further declines may not be necessary to reset the market, as it already has undergone substantial deleveraging. Entering an oversold zone typically increases the probability of a rebound, though market conditions remain challenging. The final phase of an upward cycle often involves heightened risk and investment difficulty, but as selling pressure diminishes, the likelihood of a price recovery grows. Crypto Dan highlighted the strength and magnitude of any rebound, whale movement, and change in on-chain data as key factors to monitor in the coming months and period. Additionally, correlations with the traditional stock markets and macroeconomic trends will shape Bitcoin's trajectory. Lastly, he assessed that it is still too early to conclude that the market has entered a full-fledged bear cycle. I don't know how we could even talk about a bear cycle, considering we're currently in the year after the halving, which, at least in the previous cycles, we see the year after the halving being the explosive parabolic climbs for the Bitcoin and the entire crypto industry. And I feel like this is kind of where we are going. I'm betting on it personally. And there's all this good news coming. It's not like Bitcoin's going anywhere. Even the U.S. government has now created a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And now the Trump admin wants to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, says the White House. A White House official told a room of crypto industry leaders this week that there should be no limit to the size of a U.S. government strategic Bitcoin reserve. At a closed-door roundtable hosted by the Bitcoin Policy Institute on Tuesday, Bo Hines, executive director of the Presidential Working Group on Digital Assets, told participants in the White House its intent on acquiring as much Bitcoin as it can, according to multiple attendees. When asked by someone in the room exactly how much Bitcoin is the U.S. government might ultimately acquire, Hines joked the question was akin to asking someone how many dollars they'd want. One roundtable attendee told Decrypt. A White House official confirmed to Decrypt that Hines indeed made the statement about acquiring as much Bitcoin as possible, but added the caveat that any such acquisitions would be made in a budget-neutral way that doesn't cost the taxpayer a dime. The private roundtable, which followed a public Bitcoin for America policy summit, hosted by Bitcoin heavyweights, including strategy co-founder Michael Saylor, Marathon Digital CEO Fred Thiel, Anchorage Digital CEO Nathan McCauley, and Bitcoin Magazine CEO David Bailey. It also featured 3 U.S. Senators Cynthia Lummis, Bill Hagerty, and Bernie Monero. At one point during the roundtable, a participant asked Bo Hines whether the White House supports the Bitcoin Act, a piece of legislation reintroduced in the Senate by Lummis on Tuesday that would require the U.S. government to buy up to 1 million Bitcoin. We covered this story, worth roughly $80 billion, and would enshrine into law the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve establishment by President Donald Trump in a recent executive order. After receiving the question, according to one roundtable attendee, Hines then turned to Lummis, whom he was sat next to, and said the White House plans to support legislation that puts a strategic Bitcoin reserve into law and will apply pressure to make sure it passes Congress. A White House official emphasized that Decrypt that Hines did not, however, endorse any specific piece of legislation during the event. It is currently estimated the U.S. government holds near 200,000 Bitcoin acquired via civil and criminal forfeitures. Senior White House officials have pushed the line in recent days that they support the government purchasing additional Bitcoin to buttress a strategic reserve, so long as those acquisitions are budget neutral. It is debatable whether Lummis's Bitcoin Act can be considered budget neutral. The bill calls for U.S. to purchase some $80 billion worth of BTC at current prices, but plans to do so principally by obligating the Federal Reserve to hand over revenues that would theoretically be generated if the central bank were to have its gold certificates reevaluated at market prices. The certificates were last priced in 1971. Holy crap. When the U.S. went off the gold standard. Gold has since increased by over 6,800% in value. So the gold certificates were last priced in 1971. And they've gone up 6,800%. That's 50 years. Excuse me. It sounds like a lot, but that's 50 years. Regardless, if they reprice these things, they certainly then could afford to buy some Bitcoin. So it seems like that was one of the avenues that Cynthia Lummis was going to in terms of budget neutral ways of obtaining more Bitcoin. There's tons of money out there, guys. We all know that. There's a $900 trillion in assets all around the world. So money is everywhere. Money is abundant. It is time that's scarce. I say it every day. Spend your time wisely. Spend less money than you earn. Stop putting money in the bank's pockets by paying off interest. Paying a lot of interest. You should be paying off anything interest bearing to stop making the banks rich and start making yourself rich. If suddenly you start making more money, you should start saving more money. Don't start spending more money. And start saving when you're young. If you start saving in your late teens or 20s, you should be able to retire when you're 40 or 45. If you've got a great idea or you think it's a great idea, don't wait for tomorrow. Start today, even if you're not ready, and things will slowly come together for you. I am on a path to have over 500 subscribers or more by the end of this year. And remember, folks, here at Crypto News Global, you're not just watching Crypto News Global, you are Crypto News Global. So if you found this stream enjoyable, please share, like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next stream, folks. Thanks so much for joining.